Dad used to shop there.
You wanted a cab, all you had to do was walk right here. That was Miss Thomas's house.
Looks like it's closed up though. I was in the way. I wasn't going anywhere.
We are in the way of people making money.
There is a major issue that is before us, Eureka Holdings Company, which has the right to buy and sell property.
There's history here.
We've seen them do this again and again.
There's an urgency
And then the bulldozers came.
and a real preciousness to protect what remains.
I'm glad they kept the structure of the building.
To see that just dismantled by someone we had never seen before.
I ask that you take action to protect what remains of East Austin.
I've been at the same address since 1951. My neighbors across the street, they're all gone. I can count on one hand the black people that are still living in my immediate neighborhood. There's Grant Chapel AME, that was my church where I was born and baptized. We haven't been here since 1998. You look at it and you're glad that it's still standing and that it's being useful and not being torn down. That's the best thing that I like, is that it's still standing. My mother was teaching in Luling, Texas, when this space became available. She quit, retired from her job, drew down her retirement and gave it to Dad to purchase this business, this building. Now, when he named it the Victory Grill, because it was 1945, Victory over Japan was the headlines, and that's why it's called the Victory Grill. A lot of times it was nieces, nephews, cousins, uncles of the family who were waiting tables and working the bar and what have you. So it was truly family. It was a cornerstone. This was the place, the first thing to open, the last one to close at night. Daddy was real picky, or not picky, but he was careful that when they started the beer hours where you could sell beer until 2 o'clock in the morning, Daddy declined that. He stopped at 12 o'clock because he did not want to be responsible for anybody not going to work the next day. We could not go to the Paramount and the State theaters on Congress Avenue. We weren't allowed in there. That was not a problem. We had the Harlem Theater right there next to those places on 12th Street. We had grocery stores everywhere. We were not wanting for anything. We had everything that we needed, everything. All along here, like where these fruit trucks are, there were businesses there, you know, little beer joints, restaurants. Across the street here, Shorty's Bar, that building is still standing. All the businesses are, you know, the buildings are still here. Everybody is gone. So that's a change when the people you were accustomed to seeing every day, in the evenings or going into their businesses or whatever, and they're no longer there. It is, the last one. It's still standing and it's open and it's being operated, so it's not just crumbling. We're glad it's being used.
There are still a few black churches in this area, but I venture to say not as many as there were. I've lived here, over in this area, all of my life. The most of the blacks were over east of 35, over in this particular area.
So by the end of the day, you need to get a new step, a new walk, because God has already told you it's a new path. Are you here today?
Everybody knew everybody. You knew everybody's child. If you were out of line, everybody could, get on to you, It was just a real loving community when I grew up. They're all gone. You can't help but notice it. All the blacks are gone.
There's a lot of us that have gone, but some of us are still here. We are in the way of people making money.
They have no idea as to how it was. All they know is how it is now.
I was asked for about almost, 7 or 8 years. They wanted to buy my house because I think we were going to end up with a bunch of these apartment complexes, these big things, but I was in the way, and I wasn't going anywhere. I get a couple of cards every now and then, and they're still trying to ask me to buy the house where I am. I just toss them in a can. The other people who were raised up in this area, I don't know what happened to them.
Language that developers use is always, we can make this better for you.
If you've never had somebody hand you $240,000 cash, guaranteed new construction in Maine or Texas and a Kia, they're gonna jump at it because it's opportunity.
When a person is approached, like, we're offering you a lot of money for this, and it's a person in need, they're gonna take it without knowing how much their property could have been in the future.
Because it's opportunity, seemingly, but not having advocacy in the community that takes that very real temptation and says, okay, you have option A, option B.
On 12th Street, the majority of the properties are owned by one developer, which is Eureka Holdings. Eureka came in, they had a bunch of different kinds of LLCs. Nobody knew that it was all one company.
I think all of the mistakes that were made early on didn't give us the opportunity to work collaboratively with this organization. That's a scar that they're really gonna have to work hard to remove. 12th Street once was the heartbeat of the 6 square miles that constitute the African American Cultural Heritage District and Eureka owns half of it. It just seemed to me like there should be some protection in place. It would seem appropriate to me that there would be some mechanism that triggered an alarm when a sensitive, vulnerable area was, having lots of sales. Any private property owner, prospector, could come in and buy what was for sale. And that's exactly what they did.
You can't stop that. You can't dictate who can buy a home, who can, be in a place. It's not in our power.
It's very lonely. It's very heart-rendering, especially if you drive through the area.
Our stories get deleted if we don't have buildings that represent us and represent our history.
This is not about neighborhood politics. This is not about opposing progress.
We've been through a lot, a whole lot. There's Ebenezer Baptist Church there. That's one of our older churches. Right up in here was Southern Dinette. Right along in here was Deacon Jones. They called him Deacon Jones Barbecue.
We used to sit on the porch when we were youngsters, and this street was not even paved. But we had a game where we played, okay, the next car is going to be a blue car. And then we had to add trucks because they started coming through. It was Gulf Station. That was there. And the Harlem Theater, right there where that wall is right there. That little house was called the Aristocrat Club.
The fact that they have taken it all away. How are you going to keep the culture?
I can only imagine to be a native East Austinite, a native Black East Austinite, and seeing that over decades, every little vestige, containers of memories and stories and achievements being just picked off one by one. These buildings are kind of the last vestige of their achievements, of their culture, of their community, of their families. I think that there is a real urgency to act to preserve that so that that story is not just washed away to the sands of time forever.
There was a demolition permit for 1500 East 12th Street, and knowing the history of 12th Street, of Black Austin, we were like, this building cannot go away.
Of all of Eureka's holdings on 12th Street is probably the most historically significant that is not yet designated. It really traces the history of East Austin from being, a German immigrant enclave to then later this kind of center of Black business and cultural life. This is a big one.
Good morning, everybody. I will call to order the Austin City Council for a regular scheduled meeting. It is December 12th, 2024.
I'm representing the property owner of 1500 East 12th Street, who is strongly opposed to this being listed, being rezoned with a historic landmark designation. We don't believe it meets the high bar that your policy requires it to meet. We have two structural integrity reports that both say this property should be demolished.
Eureka doesn't care about people. It doesn't care about East Austin. It only cares about profits.
Eureka Holdings Company, which has the right to buy and sell property.
These buildings up here are important for certain reasons. You've got a barbershop with a certain characteristic and style of architecture. You've got this bottom right building, which looks like, wow, it could be any old house. No, that building was listed in the Green Book. There's history here.
And I think a lot of what we're facing today is the direct result of what has been mentioned already: benign neglect and disinvestment in a community, and folks who showed up too late.
The motion passes, and the 9 votes pass it on all 3 readings. Thank you all.
What local historic designation does is it protects it from demolition. So Eureka cannot demolish the building now.
There were tiers. It sets a precedent of how we can save our culture.
I and my neighbors agreed that designating that building historic wouldn't we wouldn't be able to extract the overall greatest good. We need a grocery, a community market. We need eateries. I stand on my vote. I would vote no for historic preservation again if given the opportunity. This is my community too. This is my neighborhood too. The same place you don't recognize, I don't recognize. You shouldn't have to leave your community to get a better one. And that's how I think about the redevelopment of 12th Street and the opportunities that present themselves to work with the entity that is Eureka. And it's gonna require lots of contributions, meaningful contributions from the community that's directly adjacent, that's development hesitant. Let's also figure out a way to codify processes that hold them accountable.
To all the developers that own land in neighborhoods that have culture, that have a history of culture, work with the communities, work with the people that live and have history in this space. We want to have a space that people can understand where they came from, to understand and have a greater direction of where to go. Because we don't want to repeat the harms of what we've gone through. There's no reason to.
This is where she needs to be remembered in my family. This is special.
We still inhabit space. It's just now we have to travel, or we're still here. I'm not going anywhere. I live in East Austin. I'm not gonna move anywhere else as long as I can afford it. But yeah, I do miss the days of walking around 11th Street and actually seeing people that look like me.
Yeah. They have taken it all away. So at this point, I could care less about what they do on 11th Street. I have no ties. The ties that I have on 11th Street have been broken. It's not a good feeling for me if you had a real feel for your community. I hate coming through here sometimes. I really do, because it's so heart-rending. Everything is gone. We don't have anything up here anymore. Anything.
But I'm glad to see my mom's picture up there. If it was not for her, the Victor Grill would not exist. Her mom. It's beautiful, beautiful. I'm sorry. Johnny Holmes, Basil Winifred Van Zant Holmes. drew her money down, gave it to Dad to buy this place. This is where she needs to be remembered in my family. This is special. And we know what it took, what it meant to them, how hard they worked, and for that reason, we have no plans to sell the place. We'll be gone, and it will be up to our children. If they want to run it, that would be fine. But if they decide to sell it, it will be them. And then, who knows, maybe their children will want to continue their great-grandfather's legacy. We always hope, but we won't know, unless we come back as a spirit. But that's what this means. We can't turn it loose because we know the hard work that went into it.